welcome again to all those who joined a little later. My name is Frederick. I'm part of the customer success team in PRISMA, and I'm joined by my colleague Tom, who's normally our quality assurance manager, who is sitting here with me doing the technical parts. A few organizational details before. First of all, very important, the entire webinar is recorded. So whenever you are raising your voice, you will be recorded by us, and we ask you, if you do not want to be recorded, please do not use your microphone as a means of questions. You can always place questions in the chat. There will be 2 points in time where we are happy to answer your questions, which brings me to the agenda of today. We will take 1 question break before we jump into the technical part, and after the demonstration done by Tom, we will do another questions session for you guys. So, as I said before, my name is Frederick, and I'm joined by Tom. We're the presenters today. You're not seeing us via webcam because Corona related. We have not been to the hairdresser in the recent days and weeks, so we're going to spare you our live site. Just take the pictures as reference. So I will start describing a little bit what the business impact of our API is, what your benefits using the API are, and then Tom will later talk a bit more about the technical side of things. So starting with, what is the PRISMA Shipper API? It is the interface between your systems and our systems to automate a lot of processes to make all our lives quite a lot easier. And it helps you to get the most out of your PRISMA experience because you can, for example, import reporting data from your primary market capacity bookings, and also a lot of information which are available about the market, so about TSOs, about network points. All of that can automatically be pulled into your system. And if you have the according setup, you can also place bids via the API. So you can use the API to place bids on your behalf straight from your backend system. So there is no need to log into the platform manually anymore. The API is split in 3 levels, which cover different sets of functionality, which I will briefly outline so you get a good understanding of the different options you have, depending on also your use cases for the API. The first level is the reconciliation API. It allows you to get your successful bids, your successful FCFS bookings, and also your successful secondary trades into your system. So it helps you to reconcile the data in your systems, which is usually quite handy if you're having audits, if you're doing reconciliation at, for example, the end of the quarter. So you can withdraw all the data from the platform automatically. And the nice thing about the API is there's a lot of freedom for you to design how you would like to do this. So for example, you can do this once at the end of the day, you can do it once every hour after the within day auctions close, or in any other interval that you deem sensible for you. The second level is the Analyst API. It features all the stuff that I just mentioned for the level 1. So all these levels are getting added on top of the levels before. So level 2 has all the features of level 1, the reconciliation API, but it also offers you TSO master data. So the contact details, market areas they operate in, and currencies they use, and so on. And on top of that, also network point data. So which network points are on the platform currently, which direction are they going, which gas types are offered, what's the marketing TSO, tariffs, fees, and so on and so on. So all the information that is relevant around network points. It also gives you, and that's quite interesting, live auction data and past auction data. So this means you do not have to dig through our reporting section manually anymore. You can just contact our system basically via your system and withdraw all the data that you're interested in regarding auctions. So that means any auction information, including the marketable capacity, runtime, tariffs, fees, starting prices, currencies, auction notes, all the relevant data is made available for you with these two calls. One's for the live auctions, one for the past auctions. So this is something that your analysts might be interested in, which is why we call it Analyst API. Level 3 is the pinnacle of our APIs. It is called Trader API for a good reason. We have all the functionalities, of course, of level 1 and 2, as I said before, and it adds one key thing, which is the bid submission. The bid submission means you can fully automate the bid placing in primary market auctions on the platform. So you wouldn't have to log into the platform anymore with your token and your username and so on. You would place the bid directly via your system. You would specify all the parameters on your side, and it would then automatically be forwarded to our system to be placed in the according auction that you have gathered the intel before via the analyst part of the API. To make this possible, you also need information about balancing groups and portfolio codes. So there is, in the level 3, there's also the calls for more information on those. So what are the identifiers, what's the validity, what's the gas type, the ID, and so on and so forth. It's all provided for balancing groups and portfolio codes. And one also very, very handy thing is that you get access to our test environment for the API. So you have a dedicated test environment where you can play around. It's like a sandbox. We upload a certain amount of auctions for you with which you can play around a little bit. So you can test your implementation thoroughly before doing the real thing on the production system. This test environment is not available to level 2 or 1 because those data requests are only, it's basically read only, and there are no auctions bids placed in any auctions, which is not as impacting as a, so level 1 and 2 are not as impacting as level 3. I want to give you 4 good examples or for good reasons why an API would be relevant for you to use. Number 1 is, of course, the reduced handling effort, because you can automate a lot of processes via the API, gathering data, checking the market, checking available capacity, and so on and so forth, which is currently done all manually or at least semi-manually. The data quality is improved because there are the likeliness of manual errors is reduced a lot because it's system-to-system communication. So all the stuff that can go wrong currently by copy-pasting capacity information, surcharge information from your systems or sometimes Excel files into the platform, that would all be mitigated because there is no export into an Excel anymore. Basically, the Excel table or the data can just be input right into our systems. Third of all, the audit compliance is increased because all the automated booking confirmations that are possible. So whenever there is a booking taking place on the platform, your system can automatically withdraw the data from there. There is no manual interference there, so the data is consistent, it is secure, it's reliable, which is something that auditors value quite a lot. And one thing which is quite handy, especially for bigger shippers or very active shippers, you can handle a lot of auctions at the same time, especially in short increments of time. You can place all of your relevant bits, which can be, I don't know, 20, 50, 100 bits within a few seconds. There is no manual input required. You can do that all via your system, which means that technically one person can do all the bidding for you. In theory, you don't need even a person doing that. The system can do it all on its own. but we will talk about a few live examples, so to say, in a few moments. Use cases. I just want to give you an insight of how an implementation of the API can look, just to give you a better understanding of the power of the API. I mean, I've given you a couple of good reasons. Now I want to put this into context. The automated reporting of successful capacity bookings to revision colleagues. This is one such example. Successful bookings of the capacity management team can automatically be called into your system. So there's always an up-to-date view of what capacity is needed. And also your financial department can get an overview of the upcoming expected transportation bills and so on and so forth. So everything in your system is always up to date. You don't have to check with your colleagues, have you uploaded all your successful bids in our system and so on. It can all be automatically fetched and instantly be processed by your internal colleagues. The analyst overview, this would be like a frequent update of analyst market data, because nothing is more aggravating than having to sift through hundreds and hundreds of different data sets to find the one that is interesting for you. Especially if you have to do this frequently and you are really relying on the actuality of the data. So this part of the API just gives you the opportunity to have your system request and ingest all the available and also like the so to say fresh data right after the auctions have closed, and draw for your analyst relevant data from it to be put right into your analytics tools that you use in your system or in your company. This means you could have, after each within day auction, have your system request all the current data to be ingested into your system, and then your analysts just need to look at the results of your calculations. You can also, for example, build dashboards for colleagues that would need a quick overview over the market situation, stuff like that. Because you get the data in a raw data format, so to say, you can do with it whatever you please. It depends a bit on what you would like to implement. A good example for the Trader API is to just fully automate bookings. So they only need an approval of the capacity management colleagues. What does this mean? So your traders request capacity from your capacity management team. They just press a button in your system after they enter the required amount. Your capacity managers get a notification about the request. This request has then already automatically been checked by your system against your existing capacity portfolio, just to double check if there's any additional capacity needed. And if there is additional capacity needed, this will be automatically forwarded to your capacity managers, and they then just check the booking and maybe the surcharge, just to have a 4i principle. And after that, they simply approve the request, and the system stores the request for the next applicable auction. So if it is short-term capacity, it could be placed in the next within-day auction or a day-ahead auction. Or if we're talking about longer-term capacity, they would be waiting for the next long-term auctions, month, quarter, or year. And if required, the request could also be checked by another colleague if you have a 4i principle on the capacity management side, but that's totally up to your implementation. So what I'm trying to say here is you can reduce the time it takes and also the manual steps it takes from the order of your trader to the actual booking on the platform significantly. And you can have all these bookings stored somewhere until they are relevant. So no one has to remember, oh, damn it, I have to place a bid in the next within day auction, and then I have to place 2 bids in the next day ahead auction, and we shouldn't forget the capacity we need in the next monthly auction. This can all be done automatically by your system. It's totally up to you how you build your end of the system. We just offer you with the Shipper API an interface to have your system communicate with ours, and that with a quite easy method to transport the information. To add another layer to the Trader API, because it is also has level 2 and level 1 access. If you have your booking placed automatically by the system and the booking was successful, your system will automatically request the successful bid after the auction is closed. And it would then confirm the capacity booking to all the involved parties, so your capacity management and also the trader. And if it was not successful, you could also build the system in a way to automatically participate in the next applicable auction. So for example, if you have, or you wanted to buy a firm capacity in the day ahead auction, you can tell them, please take part in the day ahead interruptible auction or the 7 p.m. within day auction. So much for the different possibilities. Just as I said, those are just 3 examples how you can build the API. There are way more options depending on your use cases. This is just to give you an idea what can be done with the API. And in the next step, I would just want to briefly outline how to turn on the Shipper API, because it is super easy. You have to log in as a Shipper admin. You go to the Shipper admin section of the platform. You then go to the Premium Service tab in the left navigation bar. You click on the slider to activate the Shipper API service. You select the package you would like to book. And then you confirm or change the SEPA mandate details, which are shown to you. You read the GT&Cs, of course, and the API terms and conditions, and then you press Order Now. And that's it. Then your token is displayed, and this token, the bearer token, is your key to the PRISMA API, which you will then provide to your IT department to be able to access the data of your company. These 8 simple steps are what are necessary to turn on the API, because lines on a white background are a bit boring. We will show you this also in a second, how it looks on the platform. That's where I hand over to Tom, but first we will go through the UI. So I will briefly do this. I just logged into the platform. This is the landing page, which you should be familiar with. As a Shipper admin, you have the Shipper admin section. Once you go in here, you will not see this information screen because this is on our test system. But still, you can click on the Premium Services button, and in here you have the option to activate the PRISMA API. As I said before, you simply click on the slider. It gives you a short understanding of the steps that are necessary. In this case, I will select the API version I'm interested in. Here you can also, again, see a comprehensive overview of the features of the different levels together with the price. Tom already mentioned the 12,000 euros per year for the trader API, 6,000 euros per year for the analyst, and 3,000 euros for the reconciliation API. The termination period for these packages is the end of the year, but of course you can upgrade or downgrade your packages at any point in time. A downgrade would be to the end of the month. An upgrade can be done at any point in time. Just let us know and we can change your subscription. In this case, I will use the Trader API, of course, because we want to show you the full capabilities of the API. Here I can see the details that will be used for the SEPA mandate. I confirm the SEPA mandate, and then I have to also confirm the general terms and conditions for using the PRISMA API, and then I press Order Now, and it's turned on already. Now, what's quite important is that you copy this bearer token and give it to your IT department so they can start implementing the API accordingly. Don't worry. If you ever need a new one, because if I go somewhere else now and go back to the Shipper API, it is invisible for security reasons. You can generate a new one at any point in time. What is quite important is that if you generate a new token, the old one is invalid. So please let everyone know if you generate a new token, so they are aware that something has to be changed in the implementation. And talking about implementation, I think this is the right point in time to switch to the technical part of our presentation. I will quickly switch to my colleague, Tom.
Hello, everybody. Just a second. Okay, so now about the technical demo. Frederick told us already how to generate a token that we need to use for all the calls we do against the API or the PRISMA platform via the API. For a helping aspect or a try out and get all the documentation, what is available again. There is Swagger documentation. Swagger is a third-party library that we use for showing you what is possible with the APIs. So there's a detailed description of what every call is doing, a parameter or model representation, what you have to put into the calls, or in what form the data needs to be, that our system understands the data you want to send us. And there is also a possibility to test the calls right away from this Swagger client, where you can get here via the link. I can show it to you. So the Swagger documentation is simply accessible via the platform URL /Swagger API/Swagger. I think also in the API service, when you activate the service, there's a documentation. Also on the documentation, there is the URL where you have to go to. So what we would need is to generate a token again, copy it, and the first thing you do in the Swagger documentation is authenticate your user with the token you just generated. So that's basically all. We're good to go to use the API from this client, basically. So it's just for test purposes. Of course, also you can use this for real life booking if you like to, instead of the UI, but the main purpose of this is for testing purposes. Okay, let's see what we can do with the API. Okay, the first thing we want to do is something from the level 1. So we go through every level that you know, or get an insight. Okay, what can I do with level 1? How can I do this? What can I do with the stuff that is available at level 2 and 3? Of course, after everything else, we want to place actual bookings on some auctions. So the first thing from level 1, we try to get auction bookings from a specific date. So you can decide for yourself, okay, what is the time ranges I want to get my reports from? It's totally up to you. And also FCFS bookings is available. And in addition, also it's not on the slide, for secondary bookings, there's also something you can do. Let's switch again to the Swagger and we start doing something. Okay, so the first thing we did is authenticate. That's always important. And now we start with the auction booking. In the newer version that's not yet on the system, we will have also a hint after every REST call which level you need to access or to use this specific endpoint, that you do not have to try it out and get always the my license is not on this level exception, but that you know upfront, okay, when I want to do this, I have to book. Let's start with the auction booking. This is level 1 API included. And we wanted to say, okay, we wanted to have it from the beginning of this year for the format. You can use the example here that you know, okay, that you enter the right format. In this case, it's important to say that it's UTC time, not local time. So basically Berlin time zone -2, for example, in this case. Okay, let's see what we get from 2020, 1st of January, what bookings we have. You click execute. Down here, you see the results, the response body, and these are the auctions in a format, in a JSON format with all the data we would need or not need, but we could use for further reporting. Depends on your your needs. So you have the auction ID, the booking date, the deal ID, how much you booked at this, capacity type, runtime, so everything you would expect from the reporting or from the reporting area or the reports you can generate. Everything here for every auction in this, you successfully participated in this time range since this date. You really get every data of every auction. So it could be a lot of data, but of course, if you do not have this manually or look through this manually, it doesn't really matter. If you implement it in a way that, okay, I get everything what I need from every auction, you have every information there, depends on you what you want to use. Let's show this same thing with the FCFS booking. So this was for primary market booking. Let's show FCFS in the same manner. Click again, try it out. We take a date, booked since, for example, again. 1st of January. And you also have the data of your FCFS bookings. Similar data, but of course not the same because there are differences between FCFS booking and primary market. You can also say, okay, I have a specific deal ID already because I have it from the past or from another data in my system already. I can use the deal ID also to say, okay, what was the data again of this deal? And here is all the data of the deal again. So you can also say, okay, I have a report already with some IDs, auction IDs, deal IDs, but maybe I want to generate new reports with more data because with the API you also can get more data as from some reports. Okay, so this was the main thing that you can get from level 1. As I said before, also for secondary booking, there is something you can do. Give me all the secondary bookings I have ever done on this system with this user. And here you say where you take part as a initiating shipper for a secondary deal. You can see it here. I'm the initiating part, and of course also the bookings that you were responding part where you got the capacity at the end. But also only the confirmed secondary trades, so the concluded contracts. And of course also again with the ID that you can say, okay, I already have my my IDs, or I know what trade I want to have a look at. You can insert it via the trade ID directly. Okay, so this was, as I said, level 1 basically. Get historical data of your activity. We can now switch to something that is a little bit more of a market analysis. To get TSO master data, so you know, okay, what TSOs on the platform, maybe I would need a new assignment for them. You can list all the network point. For example, you can say, okay, give me all the production entry points on the platform with all the information. Get a little bit deeper into, if you have already found a network point you're interested in, you get all the information or get more information than from the list before, like special fees, regulated tariffs, runtime, like, okay, this network point is only active until this is the state, what capacity types are offered at this network point, and so on. And you can also get all the past auctions at a specific point, so or any past auction data. And of course, you can also say, okay, give me all the auctions that happened on this specific network point. Okay, this is the next one. So let's show it again in Swagger. Okay, so we're now here. Start with the TSO information if this is something you're interested in. You can say, okay, I have a specific EIC already, but you do not have to use it. So if you click execute, you get all the TSOs that's currently available. In this view, there's limited, I would say limited amount of information because it's only the ID, the internal ID in our system, the name, the EIC, and the market areas they're participating in. To get more information about a specific TSO, for example, Fluxus temp with the ID 4, you get the ID 4, and you get go to the other call with the specific ID of a TSO, enter the 4, and you get more information about the specific TSO, way more information like, okay, what is the address of the TSO, the communication phone numbers, fax numbers, contracting services list, FCSS lead hints, so everything that the TSO configures that the shipper needs to know. That was it about the TSOs. Next, what you want to know basically, or perhaps, is what network points are there that I'm interested in. You can go to the network points. You can of course say again, give me all network points that are available there. But maybe you know already, okay, okay, I can filter with market areas. So you can say, okay, give me every network point in a specific market area because I'm interested in this market area. For this, we need to go to the market areas first to get the IDs. And here you have then the list of the market areas with the names. Let's say we want to have gas pool as a market area, it's the ID 2. And we can say, okay, give me every network point that is available in gas pool market area. You can filter via the type of the network point. So for example, okay, every market transition point, border transition point, production entry point or exit points, biogas entry, so whatever you like. In this case, you can say, okay, give me border transition points, only entries, exits, or bundle points is possible to filter. And then you see, takes a little bit because there are a lot. You get the information about the network points already filtered to your needs. So market area, type of network point, and direction. This is already looks like a lot of information, but you can also say, okay, I get the ID again from the network point I'm interested in, and you want to have even more information about this. You go to this point and enter the ID you just get from the other call. And here you see also the capacity categories that are available at this network point. Or again, what market areas this is to double check, okay, I got the right ID, what I was looking for, validity of the network point, what I said before, is it going to be invalid in the next month or something like this? So you know this upfront. And because it is a bundled point that we are looking for, of course, you have both informations about the entry and the exit side. Okay, what I wanted to show you next is to get historical data of auctions and maybe filter it with a network point ID. let's see if something was happening on this ID. I'm not sure, but that's what you want to figure out. That's what the API is for, basically. Okay. So at the auctions call, retrieve all auctions that match your filter. You can say, okay, give me all finished auctions. Let's say all within day auctions at this specific network point. Is there something time? We don't care. And we see, okay, there's nothing. So at this specific network point, there never ran a within day auction on this platform. In this case, the test platform. But if you say, okay, I don't want to have a network point specific, but give me every finished monthly auctions with the specific runtime of 2020. So for this current month, we also have nothing. That's not good. But maybe you're also interested in what is currently open. So we can also say, okay, before you can bid later on, you have to know, okay, what auctions are currently open. So you can say, okay, give me all your open auctions. And in this case, we have one yearly auction open, or more specific, 2 yearly auctions open, a bundled one and a unbundled one, where we can do the bidding part in a couple of seconds. Okay, so also for the auctions, we can again say, give me more information about the auctions. You can specify it again even more with a specific ID. And here you get again the different prices, the fees, and the price steps, and so on and so on. Also auction notes of both sides of the bundle point, and what TSOs are involved. So what we want to do now is then get open auctions list. We did already. This you can, as I said, already do with the level 2 API, but of course you need this as a prerequisite of the level 3, or you do not really need it. If you have the auction ID already from another system, you don't really need it, but it helps a lot. In this case, we would need to figure out, okay, what balancing groups we have from this, or we got from this TSO that we have to use for this specific auction. And the auction details of this specific auctions we already gathered before, so we don't need to do that again. But the most important or most interesting thing is you create a bid for this auction, get your bids afterwards that you can confirm, okay, this is really something I wanted to bid. I can confirm it again. If something was not right, you can change it also via the API with the specific bid ID you get after bidding. And of course, you can verify this again. And if everything is wrong and you do not want to do this anymore, you can delete your bid at least. Okay, so what we did already is we got the auction ID we're interested in. But we still need the balancing group, because let's see if there's even a balancing group needed or something is prepared for us for this for the specific auction. So you go to the balancing group call. In this case, you say, okay, I need an auction ID. And you have to get the direction. So that means, okay, you have to get the data from every TSO because in a bundled auctions, one TSO might require a balancing group from you. Other TSO might not require this. But let's see the entry part of the bundle. We see we don't need a balancing group, or we don't have a balancing group at least. Maybe we need them. But at least we have no balancing group from the TSO. And the exit part, we see, okay, we have a balancing group here. We have to recognize the ID and remember the ID later on. And this is the balancing group number that you can check maybe on your other systems. So this is something you already know, validity of the balancing group, and if there are some capacity restrictions to them. In this case, there are no restrictions, so we are free to use this balancing group in our auction. Okay, the good thing is here, if you do not want to remember all the IDs in this Swagger client, you just leave the call that you used before as it is. You can also collapse it and expand it again, that you can get the data or the IDs you need in other calls from this call again without doing the same stuff over and over again. So let's see where bidding is. The bidding is here. Let's try to post something. Important here is post, so sending something to us, to the platform, and not getting something from us requires some data. And in this case, you see here an example format of the data you have to use. In this specific format, the PRISMA platform accepts the bid. Of course, there are some fields that are mandatory, others are optional, like, okay, if I have a portfolio balancing group auction, you don't need to fill out the portfolio code entries or stuff like this, or the same thing with conversion or upgrade. Depends on what you want to do and what is required by the auction. In this case, if you click to model, you see at some data parameters a little red star. This means that at least this one is required. Otherwise, without these information, the bid is not accepted. In this case, okay, the auction ID, it's quite clear why, because otherwise we do not know where you want to bid. The user email, what we talked about before, although you have a specific token for the company, it is important that you have the user email sent to us to check if this specific user has an assignment with a TSO, or in this case with both TSOs, and that it's possible that he's allowed to bid in this auction. And this is kind of okay. This is needed, although it's when the computer is doing this, it's kind of weird that the computer is to say, okay, I accepted the GTCs, but at least someone who gives his email address here has to know what the GTCs are, and with this parameter accepts the conditions there. Okay, let's see. Try it out. The auction ID we have to get again from up here. So we enter this here. We figured out that we have a balancing group for the exit part, so we can delete everything else. And you need the balancing group ID for the exit part again that we get from here. Okay, then we need the email that the user is, which user is sending it, as I said before. It's PRISMA platform test 1. surcharge, you have to be careful here that you fill the subunit in the right way. Subunit means, okay, when the currency is euro, you want the value to be in cent. Otherwise, you bid for 2 euros. This is really something you have to be careful in implementation of your integration, that it really is the right value. In this case, the quantity unit and price runtime is kilowatt hours per hour per runtime. This information you can get also from the auction again. Auction that you have here. No capacity. So at least the price you have to, or the format of the prices. Okay, back to the bidding part. We want to bid for, yeah, let's see, let's try it out first with 1 kilowatt hour. Okay, let's 2 at a maximum. And 1 is a minimum quantity. Bid rollover is only needed for day ahead. GTCs we accept in this case. Conversions, we expand this a little bit. No. Conversion, we can say, okay, we don't care currently. And also upgrade, we don't care. And all the other stuff as well. So the most minimal information you have to set in this case looks like this. Okay, when we now try to send it. Okay, so we have a successful 200 means successful bid with this ID and these parameters again for checking. We can check this also in the UI now when we go over to the UI in the specific auction. In this case here, you already see you have 1 bid, and this is the bid we used in via the API. We created via the API now. So you can also get again in the auction. You see surcharge 0. That was the thing. Your active bid was for 2 kilowatt hours. That was our maximum. So every data, the balancing group here, we entered via the API, are also reflected in the UI now. So, but let's check again. We have now the bid ID. If we get lost in the process and we get to know the details again, we can say, okay, give me the information of the bid. Simple as that. Same information as before, what you get as a response of your creating bid action. But you can also say, okay, give me every bid of an auction. If you do not know, okay, I did some bidding on the UI, some of the API, but in total you need to know how many bids I have on a specific auction. So you can say, okay, give me every bid of the auction. I need the ID again. Every bid of the auction here. And you see, okay, this is 1 bid. But if we would say, okay, we have another bid done on the UI, you would see both bids, and you can, of course, also change or delete both of the bids. Doesn't matter if it was created via the API or the UI. Full control over the auction data or over the bidding data. So, but let's say, okay, 2 kilowatt hours per hour. We saw now, okay, this is working. Let's maybe update this to a bigger value. So again, we need the bidding ID for changing this bid. Change bid is here. So you probably can enter everything again on your own. Depends on how much you want to change, or you say, okay, give me the data I already got from the bid I want to change, and just change the values we are interested in. In this case, we have to delete the bidding date because that was a value that is not needed and stated as read only. If you click to model, there is some parameters like the bidding date and the bid ID that are read only. That means you get this information back from our system, but you are not, you do not send this information to us because this changes. Okay, let's say we want to have some more. Everything else stays the same. And we have successful. In this case, there's nothing returned because it was only a change. Let's see at the UI. And now you can see already the quantity changed to the value that we updated the bid via the API. But if everything goes wrong and shortly before the auction closes, somebody said, we need to delete everything. It's simple as, okay, you do not have to enter any data except the bid ID. And in this case, we can get again the bid ID from here. Oop, too fast. Enter it here. And everything should be gone. Yes, you have no bids, and we can either bid again or wait until everything is over. You may have recognized, okay, although Frederick said everything is automatic and works like a charm, there is still work required to get everything put together in your system or the system you're building, especially for this. So there are a lot of steps that are maybe weird for a human being, why I do have to do all the steps to get the ID from here and the ID from there, why I cannot get all the via the names like network point, search for the name or something like this. The reason behind this, IDs stay the same all the time. For network points in this case, and the names of the network points can be changed by the TSO, for example. So in this case, you're better with using the IDs because you know exactly, okay, this is the exactly the stuff that I used yesterday or last month. Let's see if we have something more, but I think that is what we wanted to show you. I think one thing, when you do not want to use the Swagger client, there's also the possibility to download here at the top the representation or the raw data of the documentation of the API. When you download this, it looks like this. So basically everything you saw, every call, every parameter is then in this representation. What you can simply import in a other tool, for example, tool called Postman, where you have more possibilities than in this regular client we offer out of the box. You can say, okay, I put this link in here, and if you click import, it says everything is imported, and via the collections you have basically everything already in this tool, folder by folder of different resources, so bidding, auctions, secondary trade, and you can also start using it in a different tool that has more possibilities. And on top of this, you can also in this tool export it as a code already. So you can say, okay, for my prototypes, I can say, okay, give me anything in Python. And you have already some snippets that you can use for your first prototype implementation on your new system or on the system you want to integrate the API. I think that's it from the technical part.
And if there are no further questions, I want to say thank you for dialing in. I hope you learned something and maybe found a useful case for your company to use our API. If you have any follow-up questions, we're very happy to follow up together with you and find a good solution for you. Otherwise, wish you a pleasant day and talk to you soon.